Welcome, everyone, to this evening's chat about the HR journey to Israel with Gerry, Crispin, and China, Gorman. I'm sorry for those of you that weren't able to make it. We hope that you'll enjoy this evening's overview of what we have planned for April 29th to May 7th. Visit Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, float in the Dead Sea, join a cooking class, visit a number of biblical and historical sites. But moreover, on this delegation, the thing that is truly unique is the deep connections that are going to be made with your fellow HR and TA executives, be that in government, academia, and startup, tech businesses, in a factory setting where people are employing Palestinian workers. You'll understand the cultural diversity, the complexities that brings in this region. So we're really planning to have a holistic delegation that shows you government oversight, the professional pathway to qualifications, and navigating the world of HR and talent acquisition in Israel. I think everyone on this call already understands that travel does indeed make you richer. But traveling on a professional delegation such as this affords you a much more diverse and unique opportunity to magnify your learning, magnify your connections, and truly understand HR and talent acquisition at a global level. I like to call it learning on steroids. You're collaborating all the time, during travel time, in scheduled meetings, over dinner, and of course over an occasional nightcap. You'll travel in small groups, so it's always an immersive and intimate experience. And something that's really important to us here at Nanda Journeys is to support small businesses in the destination we're visiting. So as much as possible, we're trying to keep your dollars local to really impact and afford people the opportunity of financial freedom in an environment that may be challenging. Also, your participation dollars may be tax deductible as a reasonable and necessary business expense. Our alumni really do say it best. We've been fortunate to work with Gerry and China for well over 10 years now and have a number of invaluable testimonials. Chris was recently in Japan and he said of his trip, "My trip to Japan is one that I still talk about today with friends and colleagues alike. The learnings and professional relationships that were created or strengthened on that adventure have continued to benefit me years later." It's with great pleasure that I hand over tonight's webinar now to China Gorman and Gerry Crispin, who'll share a little bit more about what they have planned for the Israel delegation and their past international explorations.
I don't think we have.
No, I don't think so. Nice to meet you.
China was CEO of SHRM, but Dan China was at one point the chair of the board of NACE.
Oh, nice. Yeah, great.
And there were other characters along the way that I've met over the years who have been part of that particular segment, if you will, of talent acquisition. So a very cool kind of thing. But the ability, Dan, to be able to not worry about where you have to be, that there's somebody greeting you, meeting you, telling you get on this bus or get on this van that we've rented or whatever the hell it is that you have to do, is very comfortable when you're in a strange place, right? So
absolutely. Well, and it's not just like a normal travel agency. I mean, Nanda Journeys puts together the most extraordinary learning trips for adults of a professional nature. And so there's lots of cultural stuff, but there's lots of business stuff as well. And it's a wonderful, it's just a wonderful calculation of how you spend your time and where you go. And her team all over the world are just the best. We've had some extraordinary guides all over the world, and so we're in wonderful hands.
Gerry, one of the things that intrigued me, I went to Israel on a trip like this some 15 years ago with Marie and Manny. Nicola, it was a organization was called Masa Israel, and they had us over. We talked to the IDF and a couple of startups and like the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like, it was an amazing trip. So
yeah, we've been doing this in different countries, obviously,
Yeah.
and what's up this year is Israel. But what we've done essentially is try to work out at least one meeting with the government to
Right.
better understand kind of the incentives that might be involved in policy that relate to how we incentivize work, or you know, does the government restrict certain groups from being able to operate in different ways?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, different countries are very different.
Big difference.
If you think of the United States, we have a lot of interesting immigration laws that make life a little bit more difficult for us.
Yeah.
We don't have immigration policies that would be helpful, but every country has a set of biases, if you will, that create obstacles, if you will, for certain groups. And so better understanding the nuance of that helps you kind of understand where who gets a little more privilege than others, and who doesn't. And it's really a heavy learning. And we learned a good deal about that in so many different countries, from Japan and India to China and whatever. So I think that's fascinating.
Singapore. Darlene.
Singapore. I love Singapore because Singapore basically said, here are the proportions of races in this country. And everybody better have that proportion existing in their employee, or when we audit them, we're going to find your ass. And I'm going, well, that solves the problem. Nobody's really, you know, worried about diversity at that level. You are absolutely working against that issue.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a few complexities or two in Israel to explore. That's for sure. It's
what
do they say? It's complicated.
I was in Israel about 7 years ago, and I made a deal with about 3 different groups that they would give me 1 day of tourism, and I would do 1 day of work with them. So I learned a little bit because I did meet a few of the characters involved in government and a couple in the startups. But that just whetted my appetite because there's so much there, and I'm so much looking forward to hearing a little bit more from the government, but also I hope that we're going to have a dinner with I would like to have a dinner, and that's what we're going to work toward, with some of the startup founders in Israel, given that they represent a startup nation kind of thing, particularly if we can get HR tech types, and I think we can.
I think Pandologic and Paradox is on the agenda for right now, but we'll formalize that around people's interests, of course. Yeah.
We have a few. And so that's going to be interesting from that perspective. And obviously the employers, we'd like to be able to meet with a few employers and better understand how they're treating their employees within that framework.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have an advantage. How big a footprint does EY have in Israel?
We're the largest of the four, like we're the 3 combined of the other big 4 add up to what we are. So we're the largest by a big long way.
Awesome.
And
do you have a CHRO for Israel or Middle East?
Yeah, talent leader. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So actually, because for EY, they're part of the Americas, believe it or not, as opposed to the Middle East, because of the favorable, relationship. So so I have a person there that I can be in touch with for sure.
Yeah, I mean, either way, if it makes sense for you, that's great. We obviously would love to have you regardless, but without that, we would still love to be able to spend an hour, 2 hours with somebody at EY in terms of their observations about how there's a difference between how we operate here in managing employees versus elsewhere. And because Israel has such a fascinating difference in how they have to deal with everyone else in the Middle East, and how folks go directly from high school to military before college, creates a very different way in which we look at how that early career starts, I think.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would tell you that for me, it is the way in which I try to stimulate just different kind of thinking. You know, stepping outside the box and then coming back to wherever the hell you are, you start going, oh my God, you know, how can I get a version of what I saw there here?
Yeah.
And then we'll do the university visits too. That's always a great one. That was fascinating for me to observe as a non-HR person, to watch you guys with the MBA class in Japan, and really explore that both from the academic professor perspective, but also from the student, and what does their pathway look like. And I think one of the things that fascinated me the most was when we broke out into the little groups, how you were able to each have conversations that really dove into how the old-fashioned style of doing things in Japan, you were breaking down those barriers, and they were talking entrepreneurship with you, as opposed to lifelong job, as opposed to, well, my parents said I have to go here, versus I see what aspiration looks like. Tell me more about that in the States. That was fascinating. And I don't know if you experienced that when you travel to the other places too.
Yeah, we have, but I would tell you Japan was the most striking, in the sense that we had 40 MBA students presented to us. We broke them down into groups, and each of us spent time with 5 or 6 of them. And one of the things that we learned when we got back together and started sharing our notes was how consistent those MBA students were, in the sense of, for them, success meant getting accepted to work at a large company, as opposed to, you think of all the Stanford students graduating with MBAs who don't want to work for anything larger than 100 people,
right?
And they want to make $1 billion by the time they're 28. And these folks were going, no, if I worked for a small company, I would be blackballed in large companies for the rest of my life. My family would come close to disowning me, but they would certainly be disappointed that I had not worked for Sony or, whatever. And it's so striking to see that difference. Now, there are exceptions. There was 1 or 2 exceptions. Lovely. But when you start looking at how the culture informs the decision-making around careers and jobs, you start rethinking, how do I recruit in this kind of environment?
Yeah. And I thought the most fascinating conversation in Tokyo was with that under minister of labor and training, and the topic was for them out of the box thinking they were doing to recruit women who had children back into the workforce, and the issues of pay disparity getting in the way, and family expectations, because if you're married and you have small children, you also probably have at least 1 set, maybe 2, of elderly parents living, and that's the woman's responsibility. And so how do you get those women untethered from that family dynamic to come back to work? That was they were thinking about compensation, they were thinking about training. I mean, it was they were flummoxed, how are we and they're running out of people. They're probably, since we've been there, they've probably already run out of people. And so it's not I remember with the students, there were some international students. They weren't all Japanese, and some of the conversations about how they were or were not being accepted into the community, accepted into the academic community. How, was it hard to make friends? I mean, that was an eye-opening part of the conversation. Well, who knows what we're gonna find in Israel? I'm sure we're gonna find a very cosmopolitan, broad spectrum of students from all over the world. I think it's gonna be very interesting.
So Nicola, who do we have going? We have Danielle Monahan from Google.
Yeah, Danielle was hoping to join us tonight. She hasn't been able to make it. We have Robin Erickson is joining us also.
And she's currently with not Conference Board, or is it Conference Board?
Yeah, it's Conference Board.
It is Conference Board. Yep. And then we have Amy Dufresne.
Yeah, who heads up?
CEO of the Human Resource Certification Institute.
And then we have Linda Ball Thomas. I think she works in Texas for the government there in Texas.
Yep.
She was the head of HR I think she's just retired, but for the city of El Paso. And can you imagine?
She's been with several of ours.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I met her before. I met her. Did she go to Singapore?
Yes. African American gal with the great hair.
She was really sharp.
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've been
meet you,
on
Nicola.
4 trips with her.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And so we have a good group.
We have Crystal Miller.
We have
Crystal
Crystal
Miller.
Lay. Yeah, Crystal Miller as well.
Consultant.
Yeah, and I know Joe and Laura, you're considering joining us, and maybe Dan too. And then we have Joanna Clark as well. She plans to register.
And Joanna heads up, actually, she heads up all international currently at Wells Fargo.
Oh, did she get all the rest of it?
And she, I think she wants to head up all of Wells Fargo. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
Well, my money's on her, I'll tell you.
I would put my money on her too. Actually, the head of Target just took on the head, just within a week, just left Target and is now the head of TA for Wells Fargo.
Wow.
And I think he and Joanna know each other pretty well from actually Career Crossroads. So in that point of view.
Yeah,
Can I ask, what is just, I'm gonna have to jump off shortly. What is there a specific deadline where you need to, hey, interact, what, I get off the pot. I was telling Gerry, Nicola, that we're currently under a, hey, no travel. We're figuring out finances for, again, this restructure, but I imagine I'll have some better sense in the beginning-ish, middle-ish of the first quarter. So I'm just curious what the time frame looks like.
Yeah. Our goal to get everybody registered for a couple of different reasons, Dan, is end of January.
End of Jan, okay.
Yeah, so in order that we can give the professional courtesy to our hosts that we're meeting,
to
solidify the bios of everybody that's joining us, so we can make sure that we have a robust kind of professional peer engagement opportunity for everybody that is on the delegation. So it makes sense for a lot, and for logistics too, for everybody getting that locked in. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
That said, Dan, as long as we have a go, if we have enough people to say, okay, this is a go regardless.
Right.
Yep.
We are, and I'm thinking that we would probably have, 10 to 12 or so, something to that effect for a go, and we're fine. Then the size of the van, the size of whatever you have to get from point A to point B. You don't need a big bus, so what you're going to be spending.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to accommodate a few more. So
exactly.
So fundamentally, if you can't make a decision, for whatever reason, and make a commitment and start paying in, if you will, but at some point you're going, oh, wait a second, we could do this now.
Okay.
We want to make sure that people understand that we were looking for a maximum of 20. And so we have the flexibility to be able to say, we can do this as long as we can do this with a group of people that would be interesting good conversationalists,
Mm-hmm.
the capability of learning something from a variety of things, and also experiencing some really interesting, tourist issues from Israel, etc. We're good. We're good to go, and then we'll continue to see if anybody else wants to join us and talk to them.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I
We
can make a
also have
note
the
to touch.
capability of
Yeah.
taking guests. So,
Yeah.
if you can break your wife away from work and she wants to join you.
Yeah, my wife owns her own law firm. That I can't even get her home for dinner. That's why I gotta make dinner. I can't even get her for dinner on time. But
Well, if she wants to go to Ireland, Dan, we have a rule of law and a road to peace journey to Ireland next year if Ireland's on her bucket list.
her best friend lives there, so that might be an easier sell.
There you go.
All right, so Nicole, maybe we'll touch base again towards the end of January.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you. I'll make a note
Right.
to touch base with you mid-January towards the end of January, and I can do that, no problem.
What other questions do you have, Darlene or Laura, and in terms of your choices in making decisions?
I had told Nicola that the only reason I'm not certain I'm coming is because I've never missed the Derby since I was a teenager. And it's the first Saturday of May.
Oh,
Didn't you change your date?
Darlene, we'll make sure that there is nothing going on when that race goes.
Yeah, but physically, Gerry,
I will personally
Mm.
talk to some Israelis and make sure that we have a very large screen.
I know, Gerry.
I'll make sure that you have a hat that's appropriate for the time. And for whatever reason, I am sure that there are some Israelis who can make a mint julep or whatever the hell you have to drink when you're there.
So here's the deal, Gerry. Like all HR people, okay, this is still not a good sell to me because I have physically never missed it, and your substitution.
I get it.
You could. I don't mean to be impolite, but you could be really honored if I decide that I'm going to Israel with you.
I would be very honored.
Everybody in my world is going to be shocked. They're going to be shocked. Now, I was in Israel about 7 or 8 years ago. It was one of my best trips. It was fabulous. Wow. It was fabulous. Of course, it was just as a tourist, but it was wonderful. So I'm very much attracted to going because of the fact that I really loved the country. Okay. Yeah. And of course, my experience with HR was so fabulous in Singapore. I've never stopped talking about it to everyone. Because don't forget, you're a different breed and to me. And don't forget your comment about the number of times you switched jobs. I'm a public school teacher, 35 years, one job. Okay, one school, okay, or maybe two, and then as a funeral director, one funeral home, and that's it. So it's not common for me to do what you do. Okay, but at any rate, Darlene, so I'm going to really consider this though, guys, because I really love the idea of going to Israel again.
There's just horses over there, I just saying.
I know, and I like your group. I like your group there. I like this gentleman here. This what's his name? Dan here. Yeah, Dan. Yeah, Dan, you seem like you're okay. What about Laura?
I've heard he's okay from some people.
Darlene, let me ask you something. Did you, I'm sorry, I haven't been talking, but did you go on a delegation? It was a SHRM delegation, but with a different travel group guiding in Brazil at one point?
Yes. Did I?
Or Gerry, you did, right?
I definitely did. Yeah, okay, Brazil was one of the most extraordinary experiences I've ever had.
Yes, very much so, very much so. But I thought I remembered a funeral director being on that in that delegation too. So that's why it caught my
not the one I was on, I don't think.
Okay. So maybe I'm thinking of something else. But so let me just say this. I appreciate Dan's question. I would have asked the same. I've been back and forth with Nicola a few times when the trip was on and all of that. I signed up with the intention of going to Singapore, and then I couldn't go at the very last minute. I could, it was too late to get money back or do anything like that. And I was really sorry to have missed that. I'm a person too who's been at the same job for 30 years. So I have to say it's not a giant internet. Well, we're centrally, we're located in, our central office is in Chicago, but we do business in Chicago, Chicago, I'm sorry, in Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Puerto Rico. So I oversee HR, I oversee IT.
Wisconsin is the international piece of that then, right? I guess.
Yeah, for very much
you.
So I'm not with a large international group or anything like that. I never have been. I do business with EY, and I sit on boards where we had to hire them, nonprofit REITs and things like that. So I really would love to go on this trip.
Cool.
Just my schedule is evolving for next year, and I have not been to Tel Aviv, so but I would really. I did see the schedules the last time you were planning, and I thought those were, I would be able to participate in those in a meaningful way. So I do oversee recruiting, which of course has been quite challenging. I work for an organization of about 400 employees, so I don't know.
We'd love to
I
have
have an MBA and a CPA too, so I could bring something, I guess, to the table.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, we're a very, and Darlene can tell you, not being an HR person and being thrust into this group.
Yeah, I love it.
Very social, welcoming group. We like to have fun when we travel. We've made some, lifelong friends on these trips, and just so Nicola was part of the group that did that SHRM Brazil trip, and then
interesting. Okay.
So she's been doing this with HR people for years and years and years, and so she knows us well. She knows what's important to us, right? We're not dentists to Ethiopia, we're HR people, to Israel, and she knows what's important to us and how we operate, and the really the social pieces as well as the professional pieces. She and her team have done such an amazing job for us. So if you're able to join us, you'll be in really fabulous hands.
Yes,
no doubt about that.
Thank
Laura,
you.
no doubt.
No worries, Dan. I'll follow up with you in January, Dan.
All right, bye guys. Hey, happy holidays,
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Take care.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. So Laura, real quick on that one, I used to be at People to People for almost 8 years, and that was the organization that put together the SHRM Brazil, and they closed operations in 2015. And when that happened, I was laid off as part of their downsizing to ultimate closure, unfortunately.
Sure. Okay.
But I couldn't see myself doing anything else other than that style of travel and that very personal immersion, transformative type experiences. So that's when I set up Nanda Journeys. So that's kind of the little backstory to why we're here. And we still have the wonderful Gerry, China, and other leaders that continue to support the mission of Nanda, which is that people engagement piece, which is so important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And with Nanda, our first trip was Cuba. Then was the next trip Japan?
It was Japan, and then Singapore.
No,
Hungary.
Eastern Europe.
Eastern Europe. So Hungary and Czech Republic.
Yep. And then Singapore.
And then Singapore was the last one before that awful C word.
Yeah. So we've been trying to go to Israel literally for 3 years. So hopefully.
Yes.
This is the time.
Would there be anything preventing it from happening at this point with anybody who's arranging this, or nothing?
Not really.
No.
Not really. We're good. We got a good date.
Yeah, we have to have
we pretty much have enough people locked in, but we would like to get a couple more.
It
makes it a comfort kind of thing for any weird kind of things that happen, and I do think we have the connections, because part of it is that China and I and others who are going to be going, who have connections in Israel that may help us from a gravitas point of view get into the government, be able to go to the American embassy to get briefed on a variety of things, to go to a university and those kinds of things is helpful. if we have, 12, 15
Yeah.
people that are in leadership positions in various places. So at this point, it works well. And the learning from my perspective is just extraordinary. I'm always going, oh my God, they do what?
Exactly.
They do
Exactly.
what? I can't imagine.
I love that. And I think we have about 8 people seriously considering, and like yourself, Laura and Joe, lots of things are, people's schedules, and Darlene's, very important horse race that she has, that's getting in the way. So I know there's a good 8 people that are in similar shoes that are seriously considering and hope in January that things will free up for them and they can make that final decision. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's good to know. Now, is it okay if you're like semi-quiet and you're,
Of course. Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay to be semi-quiet. However,
Yeah, they take up all the spots. You won't have to worry about it.
you won't have to worry about it. We're one of the reasons that I love partnering with China on this is because I really like to be, at the back of the room. When I went to college, when I went to high school, I was in the back of the room. In the back seat. I didn't want to be seen by anybody, and I like to kibitz from that point of view. And China, on the other hand, I don't know what seat you sat in, China, but I have a feeling it was the front freaking row. That hand was raised right away.
You got it.
Yeah.
Cheerleader, the whole bit. But,
count the noses and be willing to get up in the middle of the night if someone isn't well, or it's a good team. It's a team effort. It's a team effort.
Does the tougher job of having to smile and make sure that we say all the appropriate things, because I'm sure I would not be doing that. To all of our guests, and as a guest to all of our hosts and those kinds of things, and we do a great job, and she gives little speeches along the way. It's great. I love it.
It's a great team. It's a great team.
It's a team, yes, without a doubt.
Sounds that way, yes.
Yeah.
And there are old personalities, Laura, on the delegation. I've witnessed that.
Oh, that's good.
But believe it or not, I'm a little bit of a wallflower myself. But when you're with the China and Gerry crew, there's entertainment abounds and fun is had by all. But the one thing I will say
and Joe, you were with us, and I haven't heard much from you, but we did spend in Japan. We spent a night. Well, was it 2 days?
2 nights.
2 nights. I think I block on one of those nights. But we spent 2 nights. We in different rice farmers.
Rice farmers. Yeah.
I lived in a with rice farmers. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Danielle.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
I'm just telling a story about Japan. We spent, our delegation was maybe a dozen or so people, and we split up among 3 different rice farmer families. I and my grandson, who was my guest, stayed in a with a rice farmer and his wife. They were in their 80s. Wow. They did not speak a word of English. And I was with Sue Messinger and her husband. So with the former CEO of Sherm, and the rice farm was like 4 rooms. It was 4 rooms split by little tatami things and slide whatever, and there was
freaking cold. Do you remember how cold?
Oh my God, it was unbelievable. But
that's
hilarious. We would never have had that experience other than that. And I learned so much about the simplicity of how many people live in Japan, as well as how many of the older folks get abandoned by their children, have gone to the cities and aren't doing rice farming anymore. that kind of thing.
Yeah. That was
it was really fascinating.
It really was. It really was.
So I was just saying there were 6 of us in our farmhouse, and we were joking with everybody, sending them pictures, talking about how we had all of these amenities. And everybody thought that we were, they actually thought we were being truthful, about it. But actually, I think that we kind of lucked out because our host also taught English in his local high school. So it really helped, I think, immensely, and I think that for me, my takeaways were that, other than for me, there were just a lot of personal, things that I got out of that trip. But professionally speaking, I was mentioning to Gerry today that the quality of the people that go on this trip and their experiences in our broad industry, to be able to just hear them say things. If they say a sentence, it's almost like it's so impactful, and yet there was such humility, amongst the people who were just, to me, they stand head and shoulders above everybody else. And to be able to learn from people like that was just extraordinary. I still have all of my notes. I still have the notes that they gave us, and just to be able to interact, as China said, just on different levels with government people, with the people who were in the universities, and to be able to really understand how things work. It has actually helped me to be able to help others since I've been back, who are like, okay, well, they think that you can just do sourcing and, and poaching. And it's like, no, that doesn't work over there, because people, when they go into companies, they're supposed to go into those companies and work there for the rest of their lives until they retire. And so then we started talking about targeting people who were getting ready to retire, because those people could not afford to live on their retirement and would need to have a second job. So, just being able to learn as much as we did, and then to be able to turn it around and to help, other colleagues in the industry, that I think is it's like not the pay it forward thing. It's like we learn so much. So then I feel like we have this moral obligation to share with other people, once we're back, to be able to help them, accomplish their goals, when it came to that. So I would say that overall, though, I actually used to do travel consulting for about 7 years. And I will tell you that I know the ins and outs of all of that. And I can honestly say that I have never been on a tour, even one that I organized myself, that was as well run and as well thought out in terms of every single detail. Nicola just absolutely excels them all. And then to have both Gerry and China being at the helm and being able to, know the right ways to get us to be able to interact with content and, the relationships, it was bar none probably the single most impactful trip I've ever taken in my life, for all of those reasons. That's just all the personal things aside.
Yeah, and I think because, these trips are meaningful, as Joe was just saying, on so many levels. Personally, the friendships that we make that keep going forever, what we learn from our contacts and the meetings, just the cultural experiences. It's all, we stay in we don't stay at the Ritz, but we stay in nice places. The food is amazing. Every detail is taken care of. And you couldn't recreate these trips probably for twice the amount that Nanda Journeys charges. It's an extraordinary experience. And the value is so high, particularly when you think about what it costs. You couldn't put a trip like this together for anywhere close to what Nanda charges us. Not anywhere close. And so not only is it, hugely professionally inspiring and personally inspiring, that's a deal. It's a steal.
Thank you, China.
There we go. I like the pitch. Boy, China, you're in a sales mode. You got to go. It's good.
Danielle, it's so good to meet you.
I would
finally
have to echo that.
You too.
Yeah, I've spoken to you many times. It's so lovely to see your face.
Where are you physically, Danielle, today?
I'm in Scottsdale this week.
Do you spend most of your time there now?
I have through COVID, but I've got to get back into an office. Google wants us back. So I think I'll probably head back to Seattle. I'll keep this place, but I'll probably be in Seattle more.
Okay. Well, that's good. I keep on seeing Danielle in different places.
Yes.
Phoenix being one, but Cabo, wherever.
Always.
And I'm going, are you really working anymore? And she goes, oh yeah, I just get to work wherever I want to damn well work. So I figure I might as well, be able to go to interesting places. And I'm going, that is so cool. I love that. That's great. Google wants you back.
They want us back. Yeah, those days are over.
Well, I don't know. You need to push back.
Why they would want you back?
Oh, I don't know. The logic, it just doesn't really make sense. But I think the logic is, with us going through this really tough sort of the macroeconomic environment, having people in the office might build morale, and we've hired so many new people that we hired remotely, and for them to build community and for us to spend time with some of our new hires. I think that's, yeah.
No, I mean, I do get it. You missed Dan Black had to leave.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Dan Black from Ernst & Young was here. And,
yeah, no, Dan, yep.
And Dan, Ernst & Young basically experimented and now made it official for their entire operation. They basically said your official office is home.
Wow.
So that is your official office. However, your team or your hiring manager or whatever, or you may want to come in, or the company may decide, we need to have you for this or that or the other thing. And as those agreements make sense and you come in, since your office officially is your home, anything you travel to an EY facility is covered, including childcare.
Wow.
And I'm going, no shit. I said, that is fantastic. That would change the attitude totally.
Yeah.
About how people think about, oh, we need you in.
Yeah.
Because if you can create an environment in which you have rationale around the team, your individual needs, or the company needs, you're much more likely to go, okay, I can accommodate all of those kinds of things because obviously it's expensible.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm not going to go any further with that, but I'm going, there's a lot of conversation between where we are today and where we need to be in the next couple of years in a lot of different companies, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Part of the fun and obviously from a talent acquisition point of view, I would rather be selling what EY's got right now than a lot of other things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, it's toward the end. I don't know if there's any other questions. We're going to make this happen. We've been playing with this during COVID, and between any number of different things, Danielle has been solid with this thing all the way through, I have to say. So
She and Kathy Clater are our founders.
Yes, right. And Danielle, they're like, when the hell are we going there? It's like, why are we? Let's just do it.
Yeah.
So we are going to do it. We are doing it.
We do have dates. What are the dates, Nicola? We can't hear you, sweetie.
Here we go. April 29th to May 7th, the dates. And Danielle, apologies if you've missed an email. I can follow up with you, and we can connect.
Yeah, I may have it.
A few of my emails have been going wayward of late, so apologies if that's the case.
All right.
So yeah, April 29th to May 7th, we're locked in, and we're getting pretty close to make a go decision in January, because we've got a lot of people that are formalizing their registrations with us. I know Laura and Joe and at least 8 others are in that position. So we're hoping for a delegation of around 16, I think. If everything wraps up the way it's currently trending, we should be about, 16, I think.
That'd be great.
Cool.
Yeah. That would be very cool. That would be very cool.
And we'll be able to, deal with the government. We'll be able to deal with universities, professors, students, HR tech startups who are in Israel, maybe a special dinner that's sponsored by one of Career Crossroads members. And we should be able to do a number of different kinds of things around that. The only thing that I would love to do, but I don't know if we can fit it, but in Japan, we were with rice farmers. It'd be really cool to spend a night in a kibbutz. But with my luck, the Syrian-Israeli war would start.
Oh, Gerry, take that back. No. Take it back. Oh, take that back.
And I'm not a tough fighter. I'm a peacemaker.
Yeah. Well, I think staying in a kibbutz would be fun. I mean, I haven't been in any rice farming communities or anything in Japan, but I have going down the Yangtze River in China, where we actually got off the boat and went into some of the fields and talked with families and had an interpreter and things like that.
Very cool.
It sounds like we definitely will have time with families, and probably a family dinner. One of the things I did, I was in Israel, Palestine, and Jordan last April, I think. So around about the same time as you'll be there a year forward. And we had a wonderful dinner with a family. And that's tremendous, because we try and hit on, of course, all political backgrounds, all religious backgrounds, because it's a diverse, very, very unique part of the world in terms of, Arab-Jewish relations. We'll try and touch on that too, and have you visit workers in a Palestinian family, because clearly there's lots of complexities. And the lovely thing I enjoy about Israel when delegations go is it's so complex and misunderstood and misrepresented in the media, as is the rest of the world. But being there and talking with people and truly understanding that, for the most part, there are peaceful neighborhood situations where everybody lives together. There is, cross-pollination of culture. And from the outside perspective, we don't feel that that's the case in this part of the world, but it is. So trying to find opportunities for you to really, truly understand those cultural complexities as they relate to human resources and talent acquisition as well. So all of that's going to be blended in, and maybe an embassy visit if we can squeeze it in. But there's so many people want to meet with this delegation, so many of the larger companies and the startups. I think you're going to have an agenda that we have not seen before on your delegations, honestly, because there are so many people eager to interact, connect with you. So from the robustness of the professional engagement, from my chair, I think it's going to be one of the most robust that we've ever had, honestly. Cool. And then we'll have the cultural elements, of course. And we know that you all have to have fun. So there will be an element of fun layered in there as well. I know my script for this group. I know my script. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
Well, thanks everybody.
Very good.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Joe and Danielle and Laura and Darlene. We'd love to have you join us. It'd be Laura, but Danielle and Joe and Darlene, it would be a repeat effort.
And we're going to take this video, if you will, that we recorded here. We've got several people who have expressed a significant interest but couldn't be on this particular one. So I'm very confident that we are going to be in a very good go mode in January. And fundamentally, I think it'll be an extraordinary event. So thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
Nicole, will you just make sure I get the email?
Absolutely, Danielle. I'll follow up with you this evening before I wrap up for the night, for sure.
Yeah. I would say this too. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt anybody. I'll just say this real quick at the end, but the, my cancellation with the Singapore came so last minute that I continued to receive emails and updates as you were traveling and doing things. Almost living vicariously through you. Why am I not there? So that was my only exposure to your groups, Nicola. So
well, hopefully it works out this time, Laura. And thanks for staying in touch and for being receptive to all of the updates and the invitations. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, and Darlene, I think you should try to convince the that running of the whatever should be done the week later or something like that. Just work on it.
Gerry, we also coronation of the king. Don't forget that.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Not easy, but you might be able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's lovely to see everybody. I wish you all the very, very best for the holidays. And we'll be in touch, and then we can connect in the new year and really get everything all squared away and ready to go after such a long delay making this happen. Thank you all for sticking with it. And Gerry and China, you're amazing. Merry Christmas and happy holidays. And see everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you all.